Hey guys, this is Danny Boy, and this is Double Decker. Double Decker is the second level added with the Fire and Water DLC. It focuses on water elementals. Quick shortcut here for getting from the upper level to the lower level. You can also grab a quick skull. Going to barricade off this area to make sure enemies walk along the minecart tracks. This makes a huge difference to the difficulty of this level. It's really the cornerstone to my strategy. It allows the minecart basically to deal with the entire bottom half of this level, and more enemies come out of the bottom than the top. The only thing that can really get past the minecart is just Tier 2 water elementals and ogres. And what I mean by Tier 2 water elementals is the water elementals actually come in as waterlings, these little guys here. They leave behind puddles when they die. If a waterling is near a puddle, it will run to it at the expense of everything else. If there's a puddle behind it, it'll actually turn around and go after it. And then it will turn into an actual water elemental if it reaches it. Then, if the water elemental reaches a puddle, it'll turn into a water lord, which have a tremendous amount of health and move pretty fast considering how big they are and the fact that they are a enemy, tier 3 enemy, like an earth lord or a fire lord or even an ogre or whatever, a troll. So to prevent them from doing that, it's wise to blow them up all at once with fireballs. They are in fact weak against fire, just like fire elementals are weak against ice. You can also use the shotgun to knock them down. I'm using the crossbow on this level though, because I wanted to be able to headshot gnolls. There's a tremendous amount of gnolls on this level, and it's really easy to deal with them if you just freeze them and then shoot them in the face, essentially. So that is what I did to counter them. It helps to know what levels they're arriving on and just to listen for the howl as well and to look at your mini-map to see from what direction they're approaching from, what level they spawned on. They can either spawn on the upper level or the lower level. And I thought that the crossbow was kind of buggy, but I think actually the reason I'm not getting headshots a lot of the time is because I'm not waiting just the split second, even just like a millisecond, for the reticle to go from being gray to resetting and becoming green. At the time when I'm actually playing, I feel like it's green, but it's happening so quickly that I'm focusing on so many things that I guess I'm just a little tiny bit off with my timing. So I believe that's the behavior I was experiencing. So it's not really bugged, I guess, per se. It's just kind of asinine. It's already kind of irritating that, I mean, you're already dealing with the fact that your spread increases dramatically if you fire quickly. I mean, if you're firing really, really rapidly, that would prevent you from getting headshots anyway, but also having this arbitrary mechanic of it has to be a green reticle is kind of annoying, but whatever. I guess it maybe balances it out and prevents it from being overpowered if you have really, really, really good aim or something. But there is also kind of a bug where you're at point-blank range, and for some reason, even if you have a green reticle, or just a really tiny reticle so that your spread should be very minimal, it like fires upwards on an angle over the enemy's head, which can be really annoying. But I don't know, maybe I'm just imagining that as well, but I've definitely experienced that a number of times. Overall, the game is not buggy at all. There's just the only other bugs I've ever experienced is the blunderbuss falling out of my hands and firing on the floor for some reason, which is one of the weirdest bugs I've actually like ever seen in like any game. Very unusual. Don't know what would cause that. And sometimes enemies get stuck in the geometry, which prevents you from basically winning a level, which is really annoying when it happens, but I've only had it happen like, I don't know, 4 times, and I've been playing this game for easily 100 hours by this point, so 4 or 5 times out of 100 hours, not too shabby. Nothing that I would really honestly complain about, I'm just mentioning it because I was talking about bugs. But I don't have the luxury of a healing well on this one in my build, so I'm trying to be a little more cautious. I have to rely on healing potions to keep myself up, but it really wasn't too big of a deal. Enough healing potions dropped, and I generally only took damage from crossbowmen, as you're seeing now, rather than like gnolls or ogres or whatever. The reason I mention all this is because this is a kind of the inverse sort of level, the mine level, so that there aren't rifts for you to heal at. They spawn from the rifts, so you can't actually heal, barring just potions and a healing well or whatever. Or the vampiric magic, which I like never use. Yep, my loadout is pretty standard. I'm using the crossbow rather than the blunderbuss. I already talked about that. Still using fire and ice magic. Kind of goes well with the Fire and Water DLC. And I'm using Mana Rage, and as you can see, the minecart just blocks them over and over and over again and clumps them up in a real nice cluster and lets you just blow everyone to hell with just a couple of fireballs. So it works extremely well, and it will even heavily weaken water lords or ogres. They'll get past, but it'll weaken them. You want to kill water lords and ogres if they are blocking the minecart, because it'll allow all the orcs behind them to just kind of follow them past, and they'll all get past the minecarts. That's kind of a problem. That's particularly important on the final wave, because 2 ogres and a heavy ogre or armored ogre, whatever they're called, I believe they're called armored ogres in this game, they come in on the 3rd wave at the bottom and the top, so I run down there and kill them myself to ensure that that problem doesn't arise. I will demonstrate that later. Using the scavenger trinket because I always use it. I'm using tar traps because I always use them. I'm using the web traps to slow down enemies on the bottom to prevent them from getting past the minecart, and just as a kind of a last-ditch thing, if they do get past, to slow them down so I have time to run down there. It does take quite a while to run from the top to the middle, actually. Yeah, these guys got past, I believe, because of that ogre behind them, and they outran him also. And once they were past the minecart, I mean. But quick headshots deal with that. I'm using grinders because, again, I basically always use them. Not always, but a lot of the time because they're incredibly powerful. I've blocked off one side of this hallway, this corridor, or perhaps mine shaft would be a more accurate term, and they're either getting hit by the cart or they're getting eaten by grinders, basically, on that upper level. Notice that I'm killing all the water elementals at once with fireballs on the bottom level. That's really important. It prevents them from turning into water lords, which is a really bad thing to happen. Especially the number of waterlings that are going to spawn eventually, they can turn into a huge number of water lords, and there's just no way you're going to ultimately be able to deal with it. So you got to prevent that from happening. Body blocking the water elementals can be useful. You can... The tier 1s will never actually attack you, so you can just walk in front of them if they're moving towards a puddle and just kill them and prevent them from moving. The tier 2s also will not attack you when they are going after a puddle. They will otherwise, but if they're going towards a puddle, they won't attack you, so you can body block them. The tier 3s can't be body blocked because they don't actually go after puddles, and they'll just eat you, basically. So, something to worry about. I tried in this upper corridor having barricades on both sides and just having them run along the minecart track, just having barricades all the way along the length of it like I do in the bottom, but it didn't work very well. Grinders plus the track, the minecart track, and then I'll also put the dart spinners for some extra damage, and then just the one barricade to prevent them from moving along that right wall. Apologies that I'm not really showing the web spinner or the dart so much. I'll show the dart a little bit. The web spinners, I mean, you can see them now, I guess, but I'm generally not down here, so you're not getting a great look. You'll see the darts later. I mean, on the first level, they just didn't fit my strategy. This level, they do. The last level as well, they just don't fit my strategy. Again, apologies, but I had to just do what worked. I mean, to get the 5 skulls and figure this stuff out. But yeah, another example of I'm just not doing... I mean, right there, I wasn't actually trying to do it. Super slow to get headshots. I was just kind of spamming it to finish them off, but... I don't know. I still feel like the Water Lords, considering the size of their heads, some shots really should have been headshots that weren't. They have gigantic heads. It's almost, like, difficult to miss their heads. Also, I don't believe there's, like, a shortcut to go from the bottom to the middle level or the top. I wish there was, because it does take a long time to sprint all the way back. But I think there's just shortcuts to get from the top down. I could be wrong. Maybe there's a secret I'm not aware of. But finally placing the dart spinners, and as you can see, they're kind of like machine guns. They just spit darts in all directions. They can hit orcs far beyond their actual trigger range, their trap trigger range, which is quite large, by the way. It's a row of at least like 6 squares, if not 9. I think it's 6, but they can cover this entire hallway, especially when you stack them all up like I am. And they do some nice supplementary damage. I have them spec'd to freeze as well, which is usually useful to help slow the enemies down, though if it freezes a water elementals, when you freeze them, they're weak against fire. If you freeze them, they turn into a solid block of ice and actually take reduced damage, rather than extra damage as everybody else does when they're frozen. But generally, you don't want to freeze them, you want to blow them up with fireballs. Note that I don't always directly hit the water elementals with fireballs. I usually aim near them so I can hit a clump of them. Fireballs, even though it doesn't really graphically show it, they do have an area of effect. A large area of effect is, I mean, you can obviously see they're hitting multiple enemies. so you don't need to hit an enemy straight on to blow them all up. You want to aim near the middle generally. You do want to kill multiple enemies. Same thing when you're hitting like frostbats or something. There's flyers with it. Also, you can target, you don't have to actually hit an enemy with it. You can target the floor near them and still hit them, or you can target a wall behind them and still hit them within a certain range. I do that a lot of the time with flyers. I have a wall behind them to hit more of them and just to aim easier. I do rather like the crossbow. It's just not all maps are as well suited to it as this one. This is a nice, long, just kill zone and sniper lane where you can just get headshots, line it up easily as they turn the corner, and just kind of spam downrange. It's also really well suited to it for, as I said before, just freezing nulls like I just did and then shooting them real quick. Getting a quick headshot on them that basically one-shots them. That is a lot of waterlings. So I popped Mana Rage to kill them all. Because that had the potential to just ruin my day. Basically. So we're about done here. We're moving on to the final wave. Just going to blow these guys up real quick. And I see a bunch of water elementals, so I'm waiting a little bit to get more mana. So that I can kill them all at once, as much as possible at least. Almost. This one does have a tight par. It's just 13 minutes. It's real easy to miss, so you gotta be quick. That's why I was using my Mana Rage just throughout it rather than right at the end. I usually kind of just save it for emergencies or the final wave or something. But there's really no reason to do that. It does only have like a cooldown of a minute or two. Maybe like, I don't know, 3 or 4 minutes tops. Not totally sure. This is what I was talking about before with the ogres at the end. If you let them all get on the minecart, they would just block it and prevent the minecart from hitting all the things that can get knocked down, so I made it a point to run down there and kill them real quick. Now I'm going to run up here, kill the ogres up here. This was definitely a tough one, guys. Easily on par with Crunch, if not maybe just a little easier than Crunch. But I would say it's definitely either the second or third hardest level in the game. The only ones that come close are just Crunch on Nightmare solo and Twisted Halls on Nightmare solo. Definitely the toughest one added in the new pack. But yeah, we are basically done. Just have the... and I'm not freezing these, my darts are freezing them. As you saw, they kind of turn into a block of ice and they take reduced damage. You can instantly melt it with fire, though. If an enemy is frozen, you don't want them to be frozen, and you have fire magic, that'll unfreeze them. Kind of makes sense. So I actually saved this mana potion specifically for this final wave, because I knew there would be a ton of water elementals, and it really helped me. I made par just by like 20 seconds or so. And a single Waterlord, if you don't have enough mana, can take 20 seconds to deal with, depending on your build. Alright guys, that's it. That was Double Decker. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for more. Please like the video if you liked it. Please sub if you want to see more. Leave comments and feedback. Ask questions and I'll get back to you. Next up is my last episode for Orcs Must Die 2. It is the West Wing. Have a good one, guys.